into Alaska and into the United States. Let's talk about this. Japan, you are due to be hit up to the north. Well, you're already sandwiched in between multiple sixes. Take a look. Okay, so you're right in the middle too. I mean, this is the exact middle point between the two sets of earthquakes. Okay, but as we get over towards the United States, let's take it down to all the smaller events. This is going to tell us what's moving now versus what's going to move next. Take a look at Alaska. Take a look at northern Yukon Territory, Alaska, Canada. I mean, guys, it's a noteworthy increase going on up in northwest Canada all of a sudden. And I don't even have the NR Canada feed turned on. This is just the USGS and EMSC showing us what's going on over the past couple days. So it's a huge amount of activity. Go back a few more days, take a look at it. I mean, do I need to tell you anything going on here? Do you see it? Look at the stacks of earthquakes here going on in Alaska. Go back 1 week, 7 days. Go back and watch my update from 7 days ago. And I'm talking about how Alaska had gone quiet, and Alaska's going to be hit this week. Mainland Alaska, we never have to talk about, yada, yada, yada. And I said all that, then it got hit. And look how it got hit, man. So it's all up here to the north. Well, what's going on the west coast of the U.S.? In case you guys missed it last night, a new 3.5, 3.4 earthquake struck in the Puget Sound, just west of the Hanford plant, due west. Now, we talked about, or due west-northwest. Now, Hanford is over here by about 100 miles, maybe 150 miles to the east, and we talked about the slow slip area in the Puget Sound as the spot. And we said that the slow slip area had returned to this location. We didn't know what it meant and had to watch whether or not the tremors were going to lead to anything. And now here you are. You got a mid-range 3. That's a power increase of 1,000-fold off those little tremors. We're going from 0s to 3. That's 1,000-fold increase in power. So what's going on there? Well, to see that, I have to actually bring you over and show you a different feed. Let's go over to the real-time tremor map first and consult what's happened, they say, over the last 24 hours. Over the last 24 hours, you'll see a cluster of tremors, but no specific stacks of tremors up to the north. They're spread out across the Seattle area. Down to the south, though, you're going to notice something that's returned in California, near the triangular bend south of Redding. See it? See the new cluster of earthquakes down there? So, that being said, let's go to the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network and consult them to say for certain whether or not there's a noteworthy amount of tremors happening today or none. So, we'll zoom in on the area. Hopefully, we'll be able to see this if it'll populate. Here we go. So Pacific Northwest Seismic Network today for the last 24 hours, we're looking at the last 24 hours today, shows a cluster of earthquakes in Oregon, but nothing down in California or up to the north. Interesting. Let's go back a day. Zero earthquakes yesterday. None. So they didn't report earthquakes. I guess the network was down yesterday. Okay. Network down yesterday on the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network. 0 earthquakes. That's not right. So we have to consult 2 different services from the same agencies to get a picture of what's going on. So here's the day before when I did my update. Then we had the collapse over at Hanford, which is over here. Okay, so Hanford Nuclear Power Plant literally is right here. See this? Okay. So Hanford plant there where my hand is on the mouse, and then due west is where the swarm started to take place. Now we have a 3.5 mixed in there. We're going to bring it forward to today and take a look at what they show us here. Cluster north of Medford, south of Eugene. Now let's go back a page. Okay, and here's the other map showing us the cluster around Seattle and down in California. Both for the last 24 hours. Isn't that funny? Isn't this great? Okay, so what's going on? We got a slow slip event going on that's now being broken up between 2 websites that becomes even harder to monitor. That being said, if you live in the Northwest, what do I want you to watch for? Well, we took you down from a warning to a watch. The warning was for a specific time period, for 10 days. And the watch is going to go out until the slow slip event stops. Mixed in with this slow slip over the past several days has been 3s and 4s. 3s and 4s mixed in with the slow slip. Now that's an increase. It was just 0s, 1s, and 2s with just a couple fours over a few weeks' time. Now here we are in 1 week's time, and it's a bunch of activity mixing up into the mix. So where's all that activity coming from? Why is there an increase all of a sudden? How about what's going on up in Alaska? Look which way our arrows point. Okay, so this is a tremendous amount of movement up to your north, and it's stopping right here. Well, energy doesn't just stop, guys. It builds. So in this case, it stopped, locked, and building right here up to the northwest of Vancouver Island. Northwest tip of BC going into the Yukon Territory, right at the Alaska border. Well, if it's building there, what's going to happen when it releases? I want you to imagine like a pinball game. Somebody's pulled back the hammer and they're getting ready to let go and smack that pinball. Well, imagine all the energy pulled back behind here that's going to be released down into this region very soon. It's not going to take a long time. It's not. Especially, again, we're talking about the compensation movement off all this. I'm not talking about the slow slip. The slow slip is going to carry on, and as it carries on, I'm going to keep reporting on it. We're going to keep watching the middle point of the slow slip region, which just so happens to be lacking any kind of earthquakes. The last one was the 4.1 a few days ago, right, or 4.2, right here. Well, that's the same spot we're going to continue to watch for the potential of a large earthquake to develop that surpasses what happened in 2012. In 2012, one more time, I'm going to reiterate it again. Vancouver Island slow slipped for about 6 weeks. Hundreds, if not thousands, of earthquakes struck, zeros, ones, twos, with a few fours and fives mixed in. It resulted in a 7.7 earthquake on October 27, 2012, right next to Vancouver Island. Well, now we're talking about a larger area going across from Vancouver Island all the way down to California. And the areas in between have all started to move. And if you combine the total number of earthquakes, we're going far beyond what happened in 2012. So the location is bigger, that's moving. There's more activity happening, and it's going on for a longer period of time. We are at 9 weeks, and it's every day. It's carrying on at these locations, bouncing back and forth between them, indicating that each section is moving 1 day at a time, which means there's a slow slip that's taking place. That is something we need to watch, and we need to, again, pay attention to, because there's the potential of a large earthquake mixed in with that. The compensation for all the movement over the past several weeks. That's not my take on it. That's the take of all the documentaries that we've watched in regards to slow slip, over in Japan, up in Vancouver, down in the Southwest Pacific, down near New Zealand. There's been a lot of study on slow slips. I don't normally forecast based upon them, but I have to tell you about it every night because I see the threat there. It's silent. You've got 6s and 7s popping off around the entire plate right now, and you're in the middle of a primed area ready to go. I'm not exaggerating. I'm just telling you, you guys need to watch this over the next several days and maybe even weeks. It's going to get tiresome like it is for me. I'm getting tired of talking about it, but I've got to keep showing it to you every night until something happens. Whether it goes away, when's it going to go away? It hasn't stopped. It's gone on every day, and when the days we thought it stopped, those were the days that their website went down and stopped reporting. So it's at 0 earthquakes. Well, no, it's not that there were 0. It's just that their site was down or not reporting them. So every single day for the last 5 weeks at this point, I've been covering this for 4 or 5 weeks. It's been a long time. It's been over a month of every single night of me covering this. And it's transferred zones, and mixed in with it has been 4s and a 5 up to the north. So far, we've gotten off lucky. But eventually it's going to be like what happened in 2012. There's no way around it. A slow slip this size, this big, this long, it's going to result in a larger earthquake. So it's just a matter of time. The location, if I were to lean towards any location that's going to be hit, it's not just going to be at the edge of the location. It's going to be the spot that hasn't moved in all of this mess yet. So it's going to be along the central Juan de Fuca cleft segment, axial seamount, going as far south as the Gorda Escarpment. It's going to be in this zone. It's a very small area, actually, in consideration of the whole Pacific. Time frame on it, again, guys, it's the Tootsie Pop commercial. It's, how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop? All it's going to take is an influx of pressure that's great enough to push the slow slip into a single event. Simple logic. So time frame, I'm going to give it a couple week. I'm going to be watching for another week, and if it gets to another week and we're still out and nothing's happened, then I might even cancel the watch and say, hey, have at it, guys, have your plans and be prepared, but I'm not going to talk about it anymore. But I want to give it enough time, okay? Now, as that's all going on, we can talk about California,